Welcome back. Today we're going to explore something that quietly drives more anxiety than most people realize. It's not conflict, it's not rejection, it's not even disagreement. It's the feeling of explaining yourself clearly and still not being heard. If you've ever walked away from a conversation replaying every sentence, if you've ever softened your tone, sharpened your point, clarified 3 different ways, and still felt misunderstood, this is for you. By the end of this video, you'll understand why miscommunication activates anxiety at a nervous system level, how your dominant perceptual style shapes the way you speak, why some people seem impossible to get through to, and how to regulate yourself without over-explaining, over-performing, or over-collapsing. Because here's the deeper truth. Most communication anxiety isn't about intelligence, it's about translation. And once you understand that, everything changes. There's a particular kind of anxiety that doesn't come from danger. It comes from misattunement. You explain carefully, you repeat yourself, you clarify. Then later, alone, your mind replays the conversation in high definition. Why didn't that land? How did they twist that? What should I have said differently? That activation isn't random. When you don't feel understood, your nervous system reads instability. Belonging is wired into survival. If your message doesn't translate, part of your system interprets it as disconnection. And disconnection registers as threat. Here's the hook most people miss. You're not anxious because you failed. You're anxious because your perceptual system wasn't mirrored. Let's unpack that. In NLP, we talk about representational systems. Visual, auditory, kinaesthetic. These are the primary channels through which you organize experience. This isn't personality typing. This is nervous system coding. If you think in images, you communicate in structure. If you think in sound, you communicate through tone and phrasing. If you process through sensation, you communicate through feeling. Now here's the question that shifts everything. What if the person in front of you isn't using the same channel? What if you're speaking in color and they're listening in vibration? What if you're expressing emotion through tone and they're waiting for a plan? Miscommunication isn't always opposition. It's often frequency mismatch. And when frequencies don't align, anxiety rises. Not because you're wrong, because your system feels destabilized. Let's break this down properly. If you're visually dominant, your mind organizes experience in images. You see patterns quickly, you want clarity, you want defined direction. When a conversation feels blurry, your system tightens. You may speed up, summarize, restructure the discussion. Your anxiety isn't aggression, it's a need for definition. Here's the subtle trap. Visual processors are highly attuned to facial expressions and body language. You notice micro shifts. But when something is unclear, your mind fills in the missing picture. A neutral look becomes rejection. A pause becomes disapproval. Anxiety thrives in imagined images. So here's the regulating question. Is this actually unclear? Or am I uncomfortable without visible resolution yet? That question alone slows the spiral. If you need structure, ask calmly. Can we define what we're deciding? What does this look like practically? Notice how those questions soothe you. You don't need to force clarity. You need to tolerate temporary blur. And that distinction reduces anxiety dramatically. But what if you don't live in images? Let's move deeper. If you're auditorily dominant, you don't just hear words, you hear tone, pace, emphasis, silence. You detect discord instantly. When something sounds off, your body reacts before logic catches up. Someone says, "I'm fine." You hear the flatness underneath it. Now here's where anxiety enters. For you, miscommunication feels like vibrational rupture. It's less about what was said, more about how it landed. You replay conversations analyzing phrasing. You try to perfect scripts, because tone once meant safety. Volume once meant escalation. Silence once meant something important. So try this question. Am I reacting to tone or to meaning? That separation creates regulation. And if you need verbal acknowledgement, ask for it. Can you reflect back what you heard me say? That's not neediness. That's nervous system stabilization. But some of you aren't living in image or sound. You're living in sensation. If you're kinesthetically dominant, You process through the body first. You know something is wrong because it feels wrong. Tight chest, heavy stomach, warm face. When someone pushes you to respond quickly, anxiety rises. Not because you're indecisive, because sensation unfolds gradually. You need time for your body to finish speaking. When you're rushed, you may withdraw, not to avoid, to regulate. Here's the powerful reframe. Withdrawal isn't weakness, it's protection. So give yourself permission. I need a moment. Can we slow this down? Before responding, take one conscious breath. Name the sensation internally. When you label sensation, the nervous system settles. You're not vague, you're embodied, and that's strength. Now here's where this becomes transformative. Your anxiety in communication isn't always about rejection. It's about translation. Visual types destabilized by blur, auditory types unsettled by discord, kinaesthetic types overwhelmed by pace. None of these are flaws. They're adaptive patterns shaped by how you learned safety. But integration is where freedom begins. You don't abandon your dominant channel. You expand your range. If you're visual and stuck in catastrophic imagery, shift into sound. What would you say to someone you love? If you're auditory and trapped in harsh inner dialogue, shift into sensation. Feel your breath. If you're kinesthetic and overwhelmed by discomfort, shift into image. Picture safety. Flexibility reduces anxiety more than any communication script ever could. And here's the deeper layer. This isn't only about how you speak to others. It's about how you speak to yourself. How often do you override your own perception? Dismiss an image that felt meaningful? Ignore a tone that sounded off? Rush past a sensation that didn't sit right? When you repeatedly misattune internally, anxiety rises. Your psyche doesn't like being misheard by its own host. So integration isn't about winning conversations, it's about stabilizing your inner world. Because when your inner world becomes less fragmented, outer conversations carry less charge. You stop fighting to be heard. You hear yourself clearly first. And that steadiness changes everything. If you found yourself in one of these styles, tell me in the comments which one you lean toward. Visual, auditory, or kinesthetic. I read them. And if this helped you understand something about your anxiety that you hadn't seen before, make sure you subscribe. Because we go deep here, not into noise, into clarity. I'll see you in the next one.